Good evening, everyone. Once again, I want to thank Helen and the Framingham Public Libraries for this opportunity to speak to you all today. As she said, my name is Shawn Luz. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for the city. I work in the Department of Capital Projects and Facilities Management. In preparing for this event, I've seen that there's a lot of great events, activities, and resources that are available through this Rising to the Challenge program. In particular, some of the prior speakers have done an excellent job of taking us through the impacts of climate change, how they're affecting our community and our natural environment, as well as how we can be prepared to respond to our changing climate. Tonight, I want to talk to you in particular about energy resilience and dive a little bit further into some of the work that's underway to prepare Framingham for these changes ahead. And then afterwards, I'll pass it over to Aimee, a familiar face in this awesome series, who's going to talk a little bit more about related energy efficiency and other sustainability programs and initiatives. So let's start with some recent news that many of you may have heard or seen on TV. This picture above is an unfortunate scene from Texas earlier this year. And during this time in February, Winter Storm Uri brought snow and frigid temperatures to Texas that overwhelmed the state's power grid. It's a complex situation, but there were two major factors. One of them was insufficient winterization and insulation of energy producers in Texas that led to many of them being brought offline. Natural gas infrastructure was freezing, controls and power plants were no longer working due to these frigid temperatures. At the same time, residents were trying to heat their freezing homes using inefficient sources of heat like electric resistance heat. And also many of them were living in poorly insulated homes. So in addition to them drawing all this power to inefficiently heat their house, they're also losing a lot of it through their walls. So this major imbalance, with energy producers going offline due to the freezing temperatures, and then at the same time, residents in Texas, demanding more power to heat their homes, caused an imbalance that resulted in multiple day power outages across areas of Texas. Of course, these power outages, as you can imagine, had a major impact across communities, affecting recovery from the storm, and making it difficult for residents to obtain things like, drinking water, food, medical supplies, and even delivered fuels. In many cases, if you have a backup generator, you're definitely more resilient. But if you don't have fuel in that generator, your local gas station might not have the backup power to pump that fuel and provide it to if you're trying to fuel up your car, or just bring home gas or diesel for your generator. There were even residents that, while they didn't face the power outages that many did in the state, they experienced significantly higher utility costs, with some receiving February bills of $10,000 or more. So this is all to say that energy plays a critical role in serving our communities, and as we adapt to the changing climate, it's important for us to find ways that we can strengthen our resiliency to natural hazards that are growing more severe year by year. Once again, just to highlight, the Texas power crisis helps to illustrate the importance of making our energy systems more resilient. And by energy system, there's a lot that's included in that term. So I just want to quickly go through that. So that includes things like our power plants and our natural gas systems where our power comes from. It includes the infrastructure that transports this energy to us, things like utility lines, trucks, natural gas pipelines. It also includes all the end uses that make up Framingham, from our buildings to our vehicles, public transportation, communication networks. In reality, energy is integral to our community, and we rely on reliable and clean power to essentially, do everything. So, just highlighting that these are all important components of the energy system, and that to improve our energy resilience, each of these has its own importance and own unique challenges. And once again, just touching upon, kind of the lessons from the Texas power crisis. Um, there's it's often said that we think about power, when the power goes out or when we're paying our monthly bills. But as I've demonstrated, power plays a critical role in our communities. And while backup generators are important, there's a lot more to energy resiliency. There's a lot more aspects to it and a lot more benefits that greater energy resilience can provide a community. Additionally, there's a lot of different, many different types of natural hazards that are growing worse with climate change that can affect the reliability of our energy supply. And then additionally, just touching upon again that, energy can influence the environmental, economic, and social health of our community. So we know that, energy is of course important, and probably didn't need to take those 9 minutes to demonstrate that, but I thought I'd share a story and get a little bit more into the background. The next step, of course, is how do we, plan to be more energy resilient? What can we do to become a more energy resilient community? And really, our journey into becoming more resilient was accelerated by the work we did through the MVP program. And many of you, if you attended prior webinars through this series, I believe Reverend Walker had talked a little bit about the Municipal Vulnerability Preparedness Program. And so what this program did through this workshop we conducted, I brought together community leaders, both from the city and from local businesses and other community organizations to talk about our strengths and weaknesses when it comes to climate change. We focused on some of our most pressing natural hazards, things like flooding, severe weather, extreme temperatures, and drought. And from these severe hazards, the community identified a number of major priorities with energy resilience. Things like evaluating opportunities to provide emergency backup power at our critical facilities, improving the energy efficiency of our local buildings, including municipal, residential, and local business facilities. And that kind of touches upon the point earlier with the Texas power crisis of, having insulated homes, you can retain the heat that, your heating system is producing longer. So in the event of an outage, it, provides you that safety. And then also, there were even priorities in our MVP report about conducting feasibility studies to look at more complex clean energy resiliency systems. And I'll get into that a little bit later. In terms of specific technologies, our community resilience building workshop really highlighted things like energy efficiency, renewable energy like solar power, and then also energy storage, like large batteries that you would connect to a solar power system to give you that resiliency. On their own, each of these can do things to improve resilience, support the health of our electric grid, do things like reducing energy cost and improving energy affordability, cutting greenhouse gas emissions. And so from this foundation, from the priorities we identified and some of the technologies that we saw were really important, the city and the community are working, on a number of important projects together aimed at making Framingham more energy resilient. And I wanted to walk through some of those before getting into detail on one of the really exciting ones that we're working on. So firstly, at following MVP, we really started exploring community energy resiliency. So MVP was really, while it wasn't the start of all of our work, it really helped accelerate us in looking at this important issue. From that, we are actually working on some planning efforts centered around energy resiliency with the MAPC. One of them will help us look community-wide to look at our specific energy vulnerabilities and develop a plan to engage with our residents who are most at risk from energy issues like energy affordability and reliability. We're also working on a multi-community program that's going to help us identify ways that we can implement clean energy actions that will also support emissions reductions and improve the health of our utility grid. And one of my favorite topics, energy efficiency. Of course, energy efficiency is a very important part of being a more energy resilient community, as I know Aimee will also talk about as well. One of the things that's going to be extremely helpful that we're working on is creating a greenhouse gas emissions baseline for our community. And so that's going to better help us understand how energy is used throughout the community and where we can focus on to improve efficiency. Since I've been here and even before my time here, the city's been very committed in working on energy efficiency opportunities, first through a large energy savings performance contract, and also continuing that through green communities. I've done a lot of work throughout municipal facilities in working with the schools to do things like HVAC upgrades and lighting upgrades and that sort, as mentioned there. And then we are also supporting the growth of electric vehicles in our community. This is part of a regional effort to make sure that as our communities transition to electric vehicles, we want to make sure that residents have a reliable place to charge. And so far we have one public charging station that we're offering, but we're working with the schools on implementing more and looking at other ways that we can support EV charging in the community. So very excited about that. And then finally, another major way is through a partnership that the city has with Mass Save and other local community leaders to promote residents and small businesses and taking advantage of Mass Save to do things like, get LED light bulbs, HVAC system upgrades, and taking advantage of the incentives that are available to do that. So before I move forward, I just want to once again plug that this is a huge initiative for the city. We actually started in 2020, and despite the pandemic, we were really encouraged by the level of participation in the community, and we think there's a lot more opportunity there. So if you haven't already, I would definitely advise that you sign up for a no-cost home energy assessment. You can do that by visiting the link below, and I know Aimee will also, in her presentation, will have some more information and ways that you can contact to learn about your opportunities and sign up for an energy assessment if you'd like. Moving on, of course, renewable energy is another important part of becoming a more energy resilient community. So we want to improve access to solar in our community. In Framingham, and one of the ways that we've done that is through this program called Soul Smart. In 2019, we were designated as a Soul Smart community, and basically it's a program that helps cities and towns make it easier for residents and businesses to go solar. So if you go on our website, if you go on the sustainability page, you can find on there things like a going solar guide, a solar permitting checklist, and just other information to help facilitate residents adopting solar. So that's a good opportunity there, and we're actually hoping to work through that program further to see how we can continue to make it easier for residents to go solar. Of course, community electricity aggregation. This is a recent topic that had come up in the community, and we're looking to pursue. Community aggregation is basically group purchasing for the electricity use in the city. And it's a really exciting opportunity because it gives us a chance to add more renewable energy into the mix of electricity that residents and businesses throughout Framingham use. And then, of course, we're pursuing solar projects on municipal facilities as well as schools. So our soonest to be solar system is going to be at the McAuliffe Library, which is, can't think of a better facility in terms of the fit. So really, really happy about that. And also we're working on bringing solar to the Brophy Elementary School and the new Fuller Middle School. And finally, to one of the more exciting topics, I hope, that I'd like to introduce is our focus on energy resilience systems in the community. So in addition to looking at things like, backup power, standard gas and diesel generators across our critical facilities, which is very important, we're also doing some really exciting work with design studies on complex energy resiliency systems that incorporate many different types of technologies. And I'm going to refer to these as microgrids. So what is a microgrid? A microgrid is a self-sufficient energy system that, as I said, it can rely on all sorts of technologies distributed across, for instance, a group of buildings. So a microgrid can rely on power sources like traditional backup generators, but also things like solar energy, battery storage, wind power. There's just a number of ways or a number of opportunities to contribute energy in a microgrid. And the way it works is utilizing enhanced controls and infrastructure that connects. In many cases, it would connect multiple buildings together. This network of buildings and energy producing assets can essentially disconnect from the utility grid if there's a power outage, and on their own produce energy that will serve the buildings in the microgrid. Microgrids can even provide support to the grid when there is no power outage. They can do things like reduce emissions by relying on solar energy that's in the microgrid as opposed to using the grid power. They can also help reduce electricity costs when maybe it's most costly for the grid to produce, and also the dirtiest, we call the peak periods in grid electricity use. So they can have a number of environmental and cost benefits. And this is kind of just a larger image of what a microgrid could look like. A microgrid could be as simple as a single facility with different power sources attached to it. That could be like a small microgrid. It could be something that would cover a campus or a small collection of nearby businesses. It could even cover like a neighborhood. So it can be many different things. But the most important thing I would say to keep in mind is it's a system that has different energy sources that are feeding into it, and it allows a building or group of buildings to disconnect from the power grid and operate as their own grid. And when you really think about it, a microgrid is great because it combines many of the important technologies together with a focus on strengthening local energy resilience. So now to the studies that we're doing. As you can imagine, this is can be complex technology. So to get assistance in learning about this and about how it can support Framingham, we applied for a grant from the Massachusetts Clean Energy Center through their Clean Energy and Resiliency program. And so through this program, we were awarded 2 design studies for a few sites in Framingham, valued at $150,000, that are going to support us in seeing like how we can not only improve the resilience of these buildings, but leverage clean energy to do it. So we're really excited about that. Facilities covered under the studies include Framingham High School, Fuller Middle School, McCarthy Elementary School, the Mass Bay Community College / Farley School, as well as 2 fire stations and one of our wastewater pumping stations. The studies are currently underway with Wildan Associates. Before I shift over to some high-level overviews of the sites, I just want to iterate that while the studies are underway, we're still very early in this process. So, for example, the overviews I'm going to show were created as part of the application process. And so there's a number of different factors that could ultimately impact what our microgrid could look like. Challenges like, we need to better understand, how electricity is used at these buildings, how the infrastructure around these buildings could support a microgrid, where different types of assets like that would go in the microgrid could be sited. There's a lot of complex stuff that needs to be figured out. So just want to show that these are visions, not here's what it'll be. So our first site, which we're calling preliminarily the Concord Street Community Resiliency System, is composed of 3 schools, 2 neighborhoods of the Framingham Housing Authority, as well as one of our fire stations. And the goal is to, as you can see, incorporate clean energy sources like renewable energy, partner them with battery storage and potentially combined heat and power, and uh, connect these different facilities that you see so that they can share this energy. So let's say in the event of a power outage, these buildings would be able to operate separately from the grid. Um, and that would obviously provide the benefit of having enhanced resiliency to power outages, but it also gives us the possibility of achieving cost savings. Even when the grid is functioning, there might be an opportunity to distribute this renewable energy across buildings to reduce energy costs. So there's a variety of benefits, particularly with this site, and we're happy to be partnering with the Framingham Housing Authority to look into this opportunity. Additionally, our other site includes the Framingham High School, our new Fire Station 2, and the A Street Pumping Station. And so a similar idea in this location as well, looking to partner solar energy with battery storage, and then potentially, combined heat and power to support these buildings. These facilities in particular are, in terms of backup power, very resilient currently. And we see that one of the major benefits of this microgrid system at this location could be reducing costs and also utilizing more clean energy, that's locally produced. So as we continue to work on these studies, as well as other initiatives that I introduced, it's important to remember the underlying goal that links all these together. And that is, the greater energy resilience of Framingham, which will support the greater long-term health of our community for years to come. So while we got into details of some of the other programs before I talked about microgrid systems, I want to pass things over to Aimee, who is going to explore a very important topic in energy efficiency, as well as some other important sustainability topics for residents and businesses in Framingham. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Shawn. For a wonderful presentation. I can't tell everyone how excited I am that we have Shawn here in Framingham with us. I think he's just done a tremendous job in the 2 years since he's been hired, and I look forward to keeping working with him. So I'm Aimee Powelka. I am with the group Energize Framingham, which is an online resource for everyone in the community to find ways to improve the community, improve our energy resilience, and reduce our climate impact. And I'm going to be talking with you tonight about how to improve your own home's resilience, kind of relating back the concepts that Shawn had back to your own home. And I'm going to go over these measures at a little bit of a high level so that we can cover a number of things. And most importantly, so that I can highlight 2 websites that are really good to get you started on the paths. Okay, so Shawn had mentioned the 3 kind of pillars of resiliency for energy, which are energy efficiency, renewable energy, and energy storage. And the first is energy efficiency. So Shawn had mentioned insulation in the case of Texas, and air sealing. And those are ways to make your home more resilient. So just like the most recent types of coffee cups now have a lot more insulation and are able to keep your coffee warmer than the cups of 10 years ago, so too has insulation changed. There have been improvements, and if you had your home insulated 10 years ago, it's time to take another look. If you haven't had your home insulated, it's time to get it done. So insulation and air sealing, importantly, will help you if the power goes out. Your home will stay warmer in the winter, cooler in the summer, and that really impacts, your ability, your resilience in the face of an extreme weather event. If you're all set with insulation and air sealing, you can take a look at your heating and cooling equipment and your lighting to see if those are efficient. All 4 of these options are available through the Mass Save program. They're all going to improve the comfort in your home and save you money on your energy bill. So the heating and cooling equipment and lighting, those will improve the resilience of the grid, like Shawn was talking about. In Texas, when everyone all of a sudden had electric resistance heating turned on, there was too much demand and the grid couldn't handle it. If people had efficient equipment, we can right size our grid and hopefully minimize our costs on our electric bills. Okay, so I've talked about insulation and air sealing and heating equipment. All that's great if you're a homeowner, but what about if you're a renter? If you're a renter, there are still things you can do. You can see in the upper left that you could get basically a savings kit for renters that will include LED light bulbs and power strips, thermostat, and you just sign up with Mass Save to get that energy savings kit. And I'm going to actually send you to even the Framingham Saves website that Shawn mentioned, and I'll get to that in the next slide. For landlords, there are currently, particularly landlords of 2 to 4 unit buildings. There's an amazing opportunity out right now where landlords can insulate and air seal their rental properties with a 100% incentive, meaning it is no cost to them. So you can save a lot of energy costs to your tenants and improve your property. If you have done all these things and you are looking for the next thing for your homeowner, then you can look at a more efficient heating equipment like mini splits. The image shown on the bottom left, these are called ductless mini splits or air source heat pumps. They come in both a ductless form where it fits through your wall, as well as a ducted form for homes that have forced air. And what they are is a very efficient means of heating and cooling your home because they simply move heat from one place to another rather than a combustion furnace, for example. And these have come a long way in the last few years. They are 3 to 4 times as efficient as the current equipment, electric resistance heating or a gas furnace, oil boiler. And so they're a great recommendation. There's a couple of homes that really will save a lot of money if you look at these or have good circumstances where it makes a lot of sense. So for anyone that has electric resistance heat, please try to get these installed. You will save an enormous amount of money. Anyone that has oil heat and is looking to upgrade their potentially old boiler or furnace, these are a great option. If you are considering adding air conditioning or doing a renovation or an addition, these are great for for those uses as well. So this is kind of an overview of your efficiency options to make your home more resilient, more efficient, more comfortable, and less costly. And the way to get started is, like Shawn said, to go to framinghamsaves.org. And I'm really excited because I think the city is doing, a one-up on Mass Save program by really trying to get out there and help its residents. So this is a website and a partnership with the City of Framingham, Energize Framingham, All in Energy, which is a nonprofit, the Mass Save program that includes Eversource and its vendors, and SMOC. And one thing I want you to look at or notice is that your sign up and your services are being provided in 3 languages, English, Portuguese, and Spanish. And that's an important improvement really designed for Framingham. When you go to this website or you get started, the first thing you're going to do is have a no cost energy assessment. And those are being done either virtually now, or you can request to have them done in person with the proper COVID precautions. You go to that website, or you can call All in Energy to access the services. They will help you go to the right place to sign up for that energy assessment. So a quick question to the audience. If you pay an electricity bill here in Framingham, can you please raise your hand? You are already paying for this program and services. You have already paid for your efficiency improvements. So it's on you to take advantage of those. This is a monthly charge on every electricity bill that you pay. So I really encourage everyone to reach out. This is a really unique opportunity this year to have someone being All in Energy help you with the Mass Save process, to help you reduce your energy bills, and particularly those folks that may not have participated in the past, whether those are renters, Spanish or Portuguese speakers, or if you've had a change in income due to COVID, this is a great time to get involved. All right, so energy efficiency is the first step. Renewable energy is the second. And so a lot of Framingham is great because we have a lot of homes with solar on our roofs, and it's a pretty exciting thing to drive around. Um, so a lot of folks, I imagine, think, oh, they have solar on the roof. When the power goes out, they're all set. They still are going to have electricity. Unfortunately, that is not usually the case. And the reason for that is safety. If you have your solar panels generating electricity during the time of a power outage, and that electricity is sent onto the grid, it has the potential to electrocute any workers working to repair the lines. Obviously, we can't do that. So the power is shut off from your system. Just like Shawn was describing, that the microgrids have a shutoff point where they can disconnect from the grid, so too can the more modern solar installations. And they do this through a piece of equipment called an inverter. And so they can separate your solar generation from the electric grid. And then you can have access to your solar power during power outages. And these types of inverters are being used with something called battery storage, which has been developed by a number of companies. You may have seen them in the news, perhaps Tesla Powerwalls or other battery manufacturers. They're typically installed in garages, and they give you some backup power and have these types of inverters. This is fairly new technology. It's still evolving. It's rather costly, but there are special programs and incentives available to install them. So it's something to look into and to think about if you're interested. Okay, backup power. We just talked about batteries. So you see in the image there some electric vehicles. And if you have a hybrid electric vehicle or an all electric vehicle, you can use them as a power source when for small things when there are power outages. So for example, the Ashburnham region of Massachusetts had a huge ice storm, I think quite a few years ago. And even at that time, people were using their hybrid electric cars to charge their phones or their laptops so that they could continue to communicate while they had an extended power outage in that region. Shawn mentioned gasoline generators, and I'm bringing them up here as well. Although they're not clean or renewable, many people have them. And so I just wanted to emphasize safety, that they always should be used outdoors, and you should have an electrician hardwire them into your home. And that if you want to use a gasoline generator, you need to maintain it. You need to operate it on a periodic basis for short times, or else it won't be there when you need it. I'm going to tell you about the second website. The first was framinghamsaves.org. The second is energizeframinghamorg. And this website is, like I said, a resource. It's been developed by a number of community groups here in Framingham, including Sustainable Framingham and the Earth Day Festival organization. So at the top right, you can see we offer various actions that you can take. I've shown you some images of efficiency actions previously. So you can find a lot of ideas and information there. You can also see what community members think by the review section or testimonials. So you can see here, one of our Framingham community members posted, "Rogers insulation, why did I wait so long?" So they obviously were happy that having a home energy assessment and doing insulation got moved to the top of their to-do list. You can see the experiences of community members with various actions. And finally, we offer a place for teams. And so I urge everyone to think about what communities you belong to and whether they could have teams to encourage one another to take actions. Shown here is the Framingham High School Environmental Club team. This was created by some of our high school students because Energize Framingham has had the privilege of working with 7 interns over the course of about nearly the last year on our resources that are available on energizeframinghamorg. When you think about making your home resilient, you also want to make your community more resilient. And so here are some action ideas that will help your community become more resilient and a more community-based place. So in the upper left, you can see an action called Solar with No Roof Required. And what that is referring to is community solar. Community solar is an option for anyone who pays an electricity bill to subscribe to support solar electricity. It's basically a subscription service. And what you are doing is enabling the growth of solar projects and local solar projects. And you receive a discount of 5 to 10% annually on your electric bills. You can also find actions like curbside and backyard composting or ecological landscaping to improve the resilience in our community. If you click on any of these actions on our webpage, you'll see a lot more information about it, places to go, vendors to call, and resources you can read for more information. Another thing we try to do really to provide a resource for all of you is to keep local initiatives posted here. So you can see on the bottom left, the Keep Framingham Beautiful action. And this is a popular Facebook group that is hosting a community-wide cleanup on April 17th. So we have that as both an action on our website that once you are done with the cleanup, you can come back and mark it done. And we can see the collective impact. And you can also see it as an event on our website. Okay, so I have covered a number of different options. There's energy efficiency, things I've touched on, electric vehicles, solar energy, either home or community solar. You can see curbside or backyard composting. And if folks are interested in hearing more about some of these topics from Energize Framingham in the future, I would love it if you would just drop a note in the chat, and we'll take note of those and take them into account in organizing future webinars you might be able to take advantage of. Okay, continuing on with community resilience, looking to the outdoors. If you have a home that has flooding or wet areas, you can do something with your landscaping called installing a rain garden. And what this does is installing certain types of plants in an area for water to slow down and be absorbed by the plants rather than running off into the streets and causing more flooding. You can also do easy things like just keeping your storm drains cleared, and that will help your neighbors as well with reducing flooding. For community resiliency, you can also grow your own food either at your home or at community gardens and donate it to a food pantry. And think of the wildlife, building resiliency and for pollinators and wildlife by planting native plants. The picture at the upper left, I was going to say, of the rain garden, that's at Arlington National Cemetery. So they can look very attractive. All right, and last thing on community resiliency, which is social resiliency. The first speaker in this series, who Shawn also referenced, is the Reverend Vernon K. Walker. And this is one of his key messages, is social resiliency is really important in times of emergency. So make sure you know your neighbors, and during emergencies, you check out to them, connect with them rather. And the Reverend Walker mentioned the 1995 Chicago heat wave, where there was a 116-degree heat index, and unfortunately 735 lives were lost. One of the major contributing factors in retrospective studies for those that perished was a lack of social connections. So this is something, you know, building community means a lot. All right, so this is the homepage I was telling you about, energizeframinghamorg. You can check it out. I hope you will. And you can email us at energizeframingham@gmail.com. And I wanted to say thanks to our wonderful team. You can see my colleague there, Melissa Cusson, and the 7 Framingham High School Environmental Club interns that we have worked with. And I am going to end with this slide so you can take note of the framinghamsaves.org and the number for All in Energy. I hope everyone will reach out and give them a ring.